Today is Wednesday, February 8th, 2017. And today, the hottest story going on right now, all over the internets, all over social media, is George Lopez and his little kerfuffle brouhaha that happened at a comedy show that he was doing. I can't tell exactly what was going on. Now, the first thing I think is that during the video that was captured, he was responding to a so-called heckler. He was making this joke or a statement. I can't really tell if it was a joke because I didn't really see beginning, ending, punchline or whatever. But he said something along the lines of the first rule in a Latino household, don't bring a black person home. And also don't park in front of the house. And then after that, a woman in the audience was kind of upset. She got triggered or whatever. And then at that point, he gets triggered and goes off on, he goes nuclear. Now, I would place the video right here on the screen before you, but TMZ has that, and TMZ, they'll pretty much copyright claim you right away, so you can't monetize your video. So I will place that in the actual description box below if you have not seen it and you want to see it. But basically, that was going on, and he reacted in a very hateful and vitriolic way. You know, a lot of comedians, I've seen stuff on Twitter, people have posted stuff like from a black comedian named D. Davis. He kind of had used similar language to George Lopez in his reaction to this woman, but his response was much different. He had actual jokes. He had a setup. It was the whole thing. He had the crowd involved. It wasn't like him just being angry and just spewing hatred at him. He used some tough language, but it was not in a hateful or spiteful way. He had a smile on his face the whole time, and it was all jokes. That's how you handle things as a comedian. But that is not what George Lopez did here. The woman in the audience got triggered, and I'm 99% sure this is a black woman. And I'll place a screenshot of the actual clip right here on the screen before you. And if you've seen it, if you watch the woman closely, you can see the way she's moving. You can see the way she's moving around, and you can see kind of like her jewelry and stuff. Like, that's a black woman. I've seen enough black women in my life. I've seen many black women. I know what a black woman looks like. If she's not black, I'll be completely befuddled. I'll be dumbfounded, right? And I think her being black is the reason why she was upset at the whole, don't bring a black person home thing, right? She allegedly gave him the middle finger when he did that. And that's why George Lopez went nuclear and got triggered. Call her all kind of B, say, get the F out. If you can't take a joke, don't come to a comedy show. But in that period of time that the footage was captured, he was telling no jokes. And that was for about a minute and a half when he was kind of like yelling at her, basically telling her to leave. She did end up leaving. I guess she was escorted out or kicked out, or she just voluntarily left. I couldn't really tell from the video if she was being escorted out or she left voluntarily. And I think the people that were with her also left because he said like 4 seats just opened up in the front. So that's pretty much what that was. That was pretty much the beginning and the ending of that whole little situation. But see, the reason why it's news is, first of all, because it involves the black issue, and then, the Hispanic issue, which is very contentious. His thing about the rule in a Latino household or Mexican household is to not bring a black person home. People were telling me on social media that that's real. That happens a lot, especially in California, LA. That happens a lot. It's not always the truth. I know a lot of people that they're black and they're married to a Hispanic person and vice versa. And there's no racism or nothing like that going on. But that stereotype, that does kind of exist in many Hispanic households as it relates to their feelings about black people. I mean, you go to LA, a lot of the blacks and the Hispanics are not really getting along too well. So that's not something that's too far away from reality. So that may have been why she got triggered, or she's just like, I'm black and I feel offended. Regardless of what, that's what the situation is. And that's kind of why it has been all over social media. And of course, because Lopez is a popular comedian. But the main reason why it's become pretty popular is because of the hypocrisy here. Because George Lopez is a big time Trump hater. You want to label Trump as a racist for, trying to build the wall. Meanwhile, you out here giving these racially charged jokes. And then when a black woman gets offended, you want to go off on her and be really hateful and vitriolic towards her like she's nothing. It's one thing to handle a heckler at a comedy show with jokes. That's fine. If you go and you do jokes, you could use salty language, you can use cuss words, whatever you want to call it, as long as you're staying within the realm of comedy, of making it funny, of making it be about humor, that's fine. you can pretty much do whatever you want in that context because that's why you come to a comedy show. But then once you cross the line and you get into just trying to hurt somebody, trying to be offensive, trying to be just mean to people, and you don't have any kind of comedic value, that's when you're doing something else. And people are saying, oh, well, it was just a comedy show, just a joke. Well, imagine if it was you in that situation and you just getting yelled at and just basically dumped upon with no comedic value. You didn't come there for that. You came there for the comedic value. It's kind of similar to what Michael Richards did, the guy that played Kramer on Seinfeld. Now, what he did was much more egregious because he just went off on a whole nigger rant. But I remember looking at some of the reactions after that happened from black comedians where they're being interviewed and whatnot, and they were asked about that. And they were basically saying that they were just waiting for a while to see where he would go with it. Because, again, you're a comedian. You want to see where he goes with that. You're using an offensive word, using the N-word or whatever, but must it be something that is so offensive to where you can't make any kind of joke about it? They were trying to see where he was going to go, but he never took it to a joke. It was always just about trying to find that thing that can hurt you the most, that can upset you, that can just release his anger upon you. That's not comedy. That's just somebody just being a hateful and mean person, which is the big difference between a guy like DeRay Davis, who used salty language but had jokes with it, and a guy like George Lopez, he was using salty language only and just trying to hurt the person. You understand what I'm saying? And like I said, this is just really hypocritical on George Lopez's part because he wants to be against Donald Trump. I think he said originally he wants to go to Canada if Trump became the president, you know, even though he's Mexican. He was born in LA. He's not an immigrant. So maybe he just doesn't maybe he doesn't want to go to Mexico. Maybe he wants to go to Canada instead, but I digress. My whole point here is just the hypocrisy of the left. And there's a lot of that going on. People like Sarah Silverman want to go against Trump. Meanwhile, here she is in blackface for a comedy routine. And some try to defend her. Oh, it was just comedy. It was years ago. I mean, come on. There's always some kind of defense. There's always some kind of excuse for the leftists, but never somebody on the right. I mean, people want to say that what Sarah Silverman did was 10 years ago, was for comedy, this, that, and the third. Meanwhile, Donald Trump in his grabbing comments, you know what I'm talking about. I won't get into that. This is a family show and I digress. But you know what I'm talking about. Those comments were said 10 years ago on a bus in private to another man just in joking. It wasn't even said to a woman in a disrespectful way. It wasn't said to try and hurt anybody. It was just said just kind of in private, just kind of in a joking way. I mean, people got to be able to understand context of certain things. You could say certain things when you are in private that you wouldn't say in public, and that's fine. If someone invades your privacy and makes private comments public, that's unfair to you because you didn't say that with the intention of it being known publicly. You said it with the intention of it being known privately. And just like human beings, all human beings must produce. All human beings got to do the deed to reproduce for the most part. Well, you know, got technology and everything else, but I digress again. My point is 99.9% of people will have to go through the tango to make a baby. It don't come from the sky. It don't come from the stork. Right. So at the end of the day, people do that in private. It's not a public thing. And that is the whole point. It's all about context and when you do things, where you do things, how you do things. Just because somebody's at a comedy show and they're a comedian on the stage does not give them carte blanche to do and say whatever they want to do to whoever they want to do it to for whatever reason. Right. So that's pretty much my assertion of it. You know, George Lopez, another leftist hypocrite, just like Sarah Silverman, just like a lot of these other people. When I talk about Hispanics, they say that, oh, you can't build the wall because who's going to clean our toilets? People like that, you know, they come through all the time. And it's hilarious to see the regular everyday Joes try to defend them like it's somehow defensible, where you can come out with something like that, say something so racially charged. The joke wasn't really the thing. As I close, I'll make it clear here right now that the joke was not really the thing that I was kind of triggered about. I wasn't really triggered, but you understand what I'm saying. It was not the thing that was really the point here. The point was his reaction after she got offended. If she's heckling you or whatever she's doing, you handle it with jokes. Once you get into the vitriol and the anger and the hate, and you're not telling no more jokes, now you get triggered. You're allowing that person to control you, and you're letting your true feelings come out. So if that's going to be what you do, you shouldn't be trying to get on a soapbox and talk about Donald Trump and Trump supporters as being racist, sexist, xenophobic, all these obics, obes, and is. Keep your mouth shut and stick to the comedy stage and try not to get triggered anymore. So what do you think? Do you think that George Lopez, what he did on the stage was okay because it's comedy? If you come to a comedy show, any comedian can get on that stage and do and say whatever they want to do. Should they be allowed carte blanche to say whatever they want because they're on the stage? Or do you think there's more nuance than that? If you want a comedy stage, you got to kind of stay within the parameter of comedy. Stay within the parameter of joking and don't get into the parameter of trying to just intentionally hurt people and be mean without any kind of comedic part to it. You understand? And do you think that he's a hypocrite for his stance on Donald Trump while at the same time having racially charged jokes and then snapping on somebody who 99.9% I'm sure is a black woman? Whatever your comments are, let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.